The chair recognizes the representative from Johnson, Representative Levin.
Thank you, Speaker. In my view, this bill does not meet the moment in any way, shape, or form. As I have already stated, a 100-question multiple-choice test is never going to be the way to engage students in civics. It's never going to be the way to ensure that our Iowa kids come out of high school ready to run for office, ready to promote their communities, ready to work on volunteer boards and local commissions, and to make our small and large communities the best places they can be. There's a few specific pieces I'd like to call out, one of which is that in the conversations around this bill, there was some confusion over whether the students who will now be required to pass this test in order to have a chance of graduating in the state of Iowa would be following the testing standards that new immigrants to our country are held to, which is knowledge of the full 100-question list, but being tested on 10, or being tested on the full 100-question list. Well, it has been made very clear to me time and time again in my conversations with the Department of Education that this will be a 100-question multiple-choice test, and I'd love to ask for a show of hands. I won't, because that's not allowed, but I'd love to ask for a show of hands of people who think we need another 100-question multiple-choice test in our schools. Second thing I want to bring up is that this is just one more barrier to graduation when we just a few weeks ago found out that we have gotten back to pre-COVID graduation rates. Why, oh why, would we impose another barrier to graduation? The third thing I want to bring up is the cost and onus of administering these tests is being put onto our districts and our private schools with nothing put forward for them to assist with that. And the strangest part about that is that in those conversations, one of the things we had suggested was that the Department of Education be the responsible party for developing accommodative tests, whether in different languages or for students with learning differences, creating a central clearinghouse, making sure that all across the state, all Spanish-speaking students are getting the same version of the test. All students who have a need for a test to be given in Arabic are given the same test. For all across the state, all students who need a specific learning disability accommodation are given the same version of the test. Instead, this version of the bill and every version that has actually been before us as an option to vote on in subcommittee, committee, and now on the floor, puts the onus on the districts, meaning that we are going to end up with like 4 to 5 to 153 different versions of the Spanish language version of this test. I don't think that's efficient, I don't think that's a good idea, and I don't think it's a good use of resources. Not even accounting for the fact that it could lead to confusion, and it could lead to a lot of expense for those individual districts. Finally, I want to talk about the enactment date of this bill, because this is something else I fought hard on. Sure, one of the things we're going to hear about is that kids will have an unlimited number of times to take the test to pass it. But test administration is not free and does not happen without infrastructure. If nothing else, I'm assuming we want this to be a secure test, which means you need somebody administering the test. That means a staff member whose time is paid for. You need either technology if this is being given as an online test, or you need print capacity if this is being given as a pencil and paper test. So you need copies of the test to be printed every time it is administered. And you need staff time every time it is administered. So let's say somebody is graduating in 2030. They've got 29, 30, 28, 29, 27, 28, and 26, 27. They can take the test as many times as their district is able to administer it in those 4 years. Now let's consider somebody who's graduating in 2026. This bill goes into effect on July 1st of this year, meaning that student will get 1 year to pass the test in order to graduate. Anybody else concerned about what our graduation rates are going to look like in 2026, purely based on this one test that these students have had no opportunity to know is going to be a barrier to their graduation? I'm not sure we are fully understanding the ramifications of this bill when we see it come to the floor today. For the first 3 years of implementation, students are not going to have the opportunities that are going to be claimed they will be afforded. Districts like mine may be able to afford more, implement more test opportunities per year. Other districts may not. That's not clear in the bill. And guess what? Remember, there's no funding. This bill is a bad idea. It doesn't meet the moment. It doesn't engage students. Instead, it puts in front of them a 100-question multiple-choice test that may scare them because it may stop them from graduating. It's not the high achievers who I'm concerned about. Those kids are going to pass the test. I know Representative Henderson can pass the test. I know I can pass the test. We've both taken it numerous times in our work on this bill. I know most of us in this room can pass this test. I'm worried about the kid who's just planning to graduate high school because their parent has told them that is the one thing they care about, or their grandparent has told them that that's the one thing they care about. And now they're going to take the test the first time, let's say their sophomore year, right after they finish their civics class, and they don't pass it. They get a 54. And they say, well, I can either spend the next 3 years retaking this dumb thing, or next year when I turn 17, I could drop out and say, sorry, Mom, the state made it impossible for me to graduate. This is a bad idea. I encourage a no vote.